Hello, today we're going to have a chat about the WaveFolder section of the Synchrodyne module. But before we do that, we're going to go through the signal flow of the Synchrodyne and Synchrodyne Expand module, just so that you know where the WaveFolders are located in that signal flow. The first stage is the VCO, where the SAW output is normal to the VCA. After the VCA, there is a WaveFolder, a 4-stage WaveFolder, and then out of that, the signal goes into the compressor, and from the compressor, the signal then goes back into the filter, and there is another optional 1-stage WaveFolder for the two outputs here. The WaveFolder 2-pole WaveFolder outputs and a 4-pole WaveFolder outputs. We will be concentrating more on the first WaveFolder today, and I'll quickly demonstrate the second WaveFolder right now. So now I'm just listening to the 2-pole outputs. There's really not any controls available for the WaveFolder at the final stage. You can either select or unselect it by just plugging in where you're listening to. So that's the 2-pole WaveFolder output, the 4-pole output, and the 4-pole WaveFolder output. So again, just by plugging it into the WaveFolder outputs, that's where you select whether the WaveFolder at the final stage is on or off. Okay, then let's maybe visit the 4-stage WaveFolder that's just before the VCA and just before the compressor. Okay, so with this WaveFolder, there is actually a toggle switch to turn it on and off. So if the toggle switch is down, then the WaveFolder is off, and if the toggle switch is on, then the WaveFolder is active. So let's listen to 2-pole again. So this is without the WaveFolder. This will just control the input volume of the VCA, and if I turn the WaveFolder up, this will then control the folder amount of the WaveFolder. Again, then if you listen to the 4-pole output, so it's the folder amount of the first WaveFolder. If we now listen to the 2-pole WaveFolder output, there is control of the first WaveFolder, but there's also a second WaveFolder in there. So you can hear that. So the 2-pole with only one WaveFolder, and the 2-pole with two WaveFolders. Similarly, this is the 4-pole with just one WaveFolder, and 4-pole with two WaveFolders. Okay, so those are all the controls you have with the WaveFolder on a Synchrodyne module. Okay, so the Synchrodyne Expand adds an additional WaveFolder level output control, and also a WaveFolder output that is tapped directly out of the WaveFolder without going through the filter or the compressor. Okay, if I put an external input into the synchronizer, I've got the phase displacement oscillator here, where I currently have a saw wave going into the Synchrodyne, the VCA input of Synchrodyne. Let's listen to the 2-pole output. That's the saw wave, and that's the filter. Now I've got the WaveFolder on now, and this will control the WaveFolder amount. Okay, now if I just plug it into the wavefold output on the Synchrodyne Expand, I won't get the filter, so it's directly tapped from the WaveFolder, and this will just control the level of the WaveFolder, or rather the volume of the WaveFolder. So I could do that here as well, so I can control how much of the volume of the WaveFolder I like to hear on the output of the 2-pole filter outputs. Okay, maybe now we'll go through the various inputs or that I can feed into the WaveFolder. So if I'm feeding in a sine wave, here's what the WaveFolder output sounds like. And a triangle. And then a saw. And then a pulse or square. Generally, with a lot of WaveFolders, you get a lot of interesting sounds just using the sine wave. But with this WaveFolder, yeah, you get some very interesting results. With folding, I'm not sure what they've done to the circuit, but with the saw and the pulse wave, you get some very interesting results, not like any other WaveFolder that I've heard of. Okay, next then we'll talk about this VCA CV. So I've got a gate here coming from a sequencer into the quadra, which then gives me an envelope into the VCA CV. One thing to note that this VCA CV input controls both the VCA and also the wavefold amount. So if I plug the output here to the VCA, you can tell that the envelope is actually controlling the VCA and also the wavefold output, both at the same time. Okay, next we're going to look at how we're going to create a feedback patch using the WaveFolder circuit and also filter 2 of the Synchrodyne Expand. What we need is to also use an external mixer. I'm using the Untitled Chapter, but you can use any other mixer that you have. Okay, so first we need to connect the output of the phase displacement oscillator into the input of the first channel of the mixer. We then need to split the output of the WaveFolder into a mode. And then connect one of the outputs of that back into the input of the second filter. Then the output of the filter goes into the channel of the second mixer, and then this sum of channels 1 and 2 goes back into the input of the Synchrodyne. So what we've done here is to split the output of the WaveFolder into two. One goes to the input of magneto, which then goes to my mixer, and the other one goes into the input of the filter, and the output of filter goes into the second channel of the mixer, and the output of the mixer then goes into the input of the Synchrodyne. So what this does is it does a feedback patch using the filter of Synchrodyne Expand. So now let's have a listen to it. The frequency cutoff of filter 2 is controlled using the V02 frequency. So there you go, that's the first feedback patch. We can play around with the resonance to get more squelch. What we can also do is to use a VCA to control how much of this feedback signal gets fed back into the input of the Synchrodyne. So if we patch this to the triple bipolar VCA, you can use any VCA, and the output of this goes back into the mixer, and I can patch a random signal from the Vogelbach to control this. So what we're doing here is we're just controlling how much of the feedback signal goes back into the circuit via a VCA and also a random source from the Vogelbach. Maybe patch another CV signal into 1 volt per octave of V02 to control the frequency cutoff, or definitely give us some very interesting results. You can maybe have a listen to some of the other waveforms, sine wave. Triangle wave. The soul wave. And the square wave. Actually, I like this one the most. Okay, and that's it for this video. Hope to see you the next time.